Hey again, and welcome to Section 5, finishing our application. In the previous section, we set up Firebase, and we learned how to create, connect to, and start using the Firebase database. In this section, we'll keep working with Firebase because we're going to integrate it further into our application. We'll create a middleware to use while working with Firebase data in our redux-ish store. Firebase streams data where the store deals in states. Our reducers are synchronous. Firebase is really asynchronous, streaming, but we can reconcile the way these two different technologies work in a safe way by creating special actions and a middleware. And then after that, we're going to load slides into our app from Firebase, and we're going to update the slides in the DOM in real time as they update inside Firebase. Then we'll wrap up this course with a note on writing tests for functional apps, how it differs from what you may be used to. All right, let's move on to the first video where we start building a custom middleware for Firebase. In this video, we're going to go through middleware, which we touched upon in the previous volume. Middleware gives the developer power over the way a Redux, or in our case, a redux-ish store behaves. We are going to create a custom middleware that will connect Firebase to our store. And we'll want to handle regular actions the same way we're already doing. We don't want to lose functionality, but we also want to handle special Firebase actions. And that's what we're going to start to design in this video. So let's get a start on this. As an overview, our redux-ish store has three important jobs. First job, when any actions are dispatched, the store is responsible to take them and pass them through the reducers to calculate the next state. So then it gets a state, and the store can notify listeners, and then the listeners can in turn ask the store for that updated state. So now what we want to do is we want to modify the store. We want it to work a little bit differently so that if an action comes in, the store can figure out, is this a regular action? In which case it is just dispatched like normal. Or if a special Firebase action is dispatched, then the store will use the custom middleware to handle that Firebase connection and in turn dispatch subsequent actions for Firebase related events. So let's jump into some code. Our first step, head into index.jsx. We're going to dispatch an action that will eventually be used to fetch remote slides from Firebase. First, give this action a type name, and we're actually just going to use this as a base. Like we did with the asynchronous functions, we'll have type start, type error, type success, and we'll add a special property, Firebase, and this will include the database ref, so the reference where we want to look at the database, and an event method. So this could be value or child moved. One other property that we could include in this object will be a cancel property. We don't need that now, but the cancel property would be a Boolean, and if it was set to true, it would mean that we want to stop listening to this node. At the top of this file, change the import path on the middleware from the action history middleware to Firebase middleware. And then create that file, utils Firebase middleware. Cut the Firebase import and setup code from the top of the index file, bring that in. Redux actually has a function to combine middleware, but our redux-ish store can't do that, and we don't really need it to anyways. So now in this file, I actually just copied the action history middleware file from this same utils folder, pasted in, added the setup code up top for Firebase, and we'll make sure to adjust the config path, and we'll just clean this out a bit. So just delete stuff that's not pertinent to what we're doing. And then we have a little template for middleware. I already know that I'm going to need a few Ramda functions, so I'm just going to pull these out of the Ramda R namespace now. This will make it easier throughout the video. All right. And so now, as I said, we need to keep track of active Firebase listeners so that we'll be able to cancel them. So a listener object will be good for this. And now we need to return a store, because essentially that's what middleware does. It returns a store, just a little bit modified. And this store has to be able to handle our regular actions. When they get dispatched, it has to send them to our reducer. And our main reducer is actually this reducer variable right there. So this is where we're going to get in between the actions and the main reducer to do our custom Firebase integration. We're going to write two higher order functions, one to handle regular actions. So this will just take the main reducer and it's going to return a function that will just call that reducer with the state and action. This makes a little more code. We could do this just by calling the reducer directly. I think this will turn out a lot more readable. And the second higher order function is going to be one that handles the Firebase actions, our custom Firebase actions. Now to decide when to call which function, is it a regular action or not, we'll use if-else. If the second argument, which is our action, that's nth arg1, has the Firebase property, then we know it's a special Firebase action. It will have the ref key, the method key, and possibly the cancel key. So if that's the case, then call handle Firebase action. And to set up this handle Firebase action, we need to pass it the store and the main reducer function, because eventually our main reducer has to be called. We're just getting in the way of it here, but eventually we do want our main reducer to reduce whatever data we get from Firebase. Otherwise, we're going to just handle regular actions. And then this is why I said this would be a little bit more readable, or I think it is, with the higher order functions, because now this if-else statement reads more like a sentence. If this is happening, handle it with Firebase, otherwise handle it as a regular action. And in the Firebase function, just add our store, reducer, and listener arguments, and return a function that will handle the action. So this is where we're going to do all the custom work in this middleware. Let's destructure from our action the variable's type, which we could default as Firebase, although really we should pass this in. This should be set already. From action Firebase, the ref, method, and cancel. Cancel we can actually just set to false, because we're only going to actually set this property when we want to cancel listening to Firebase. And the last thing we're going to do in this video, we'll just create an array of different action type names, and these will be suffixes to the type that was passed in our action. So that is start, next, error, and complete. And then we can just map this to a function that simply combines, using a template string, these suffixes after our type name, and this will give us the 4 different types of actions that our Firebase stream will emit. And just the names of these suffixes alone, they should remind you of our observable. In this video, we laid the groundwork for a Firebase middleware to use with our redux-ish store. At the moment, the middleware hasn't changed anything. So in the next video, we'll write a special handler function specifically for Firebase actions dispatched through the middleware.